Evening Jordan, evening Tim. How are we all doing? Hope we're all well. Did a little organisation of my desk, tidied up a bit on Friday. Changed the stand. The stand has been on before, but it wasn't on recently. So far it's been a nice weekend, relaxful. Knocked out a new pipe today, this evening, which I will show you soon. And I've also got a little box to open, which has something very special indeed. I have yet to smoke a pipe today. I last smoked a pipe yesterday afternoon. Good evening, Gustavo. So I need to decide whether to go pipe or to go cigar. I think I'm going to start with the pipe. I think that's the right thing to do, really. I'm thinking maybe. Thank you, Andy. How are you doing? I might crack this tin of potlatch actually. I'm not sure how old it is, but I'm surprised that there's no age on it anywhere. But potlatch itself wasn't released until a bit later on. Good evening, Art. How are you doing? So the Shape 55 is actually downstairs. If anybody wants, I can go and get it if somebody wants to see it again. But this evening I made a nice apple. It's kind of a cross between an apple and an ants, a devil's ants, but it's really more of an apple. Not quite completely round. It's kind of an egg kind of idea. I'll show you that in a minute. I'm very happy with how it's come out. And I've left this one completely natural, nothing on it at all. It's completely naked, and which should be interesting. I mean, to be honest, when I set out to make this pipe, I actually set out to make it for myself. But smoking storm front, waiting for the storm to hit. And I must be honest, here it's gone freezing. It's really, really cold at the moment. I don't know, it wouldn't surprise me if we got a bit of snow or something like that, although I don't think it's scheduled. But it is cold. Tree, good evening. Joe Fish, good evening. Anyway, so I'll show you first the pipe that I made today. Smurf and Lely is in the house. So here it is. This is a really craggy sea rock style. I actually started this with a chisel and then high Pascal, and then went on it with the rustication tool. Time to kick some arse indeed. So this is kind of a cross between a pot. I've canted it very slightly. I don't know if you can see that. So it's a lot of things actually, this pipe. It's got a little bit of a sort of egg kind of, if you can, not egg, but it's kind of wider a little bit, not completely round, which was intentional. The top is round, but I just sanded it more there and there, just to give it a little bit of interest, slightly different. The drilling is spot on. So I've kept this nice and smooth on the top, and the shank and that bit there is smooth. but the rest of it is completely natural. There's the drill, and that's a perfect draft hole there. Well, custom built might be if I'd give it a really deep sort of carving rather than a C-rock. I've not actually tried doing a custom built style. Yeah, I must say, Jordan, that the rustication. Hi, the Saranov. Good evening. The rustication. I must say that although you don't have to sort of get the sanding completely perfect, because there isn't really, besides for that little bit which I've left smooth here. But the elbow grease that's needed, it's heavy work doing this kind of rustication. It really is. I was really dripping with sweat by the time I finished rusticating this pipe. So as I said, I really wanted it to be really deep and rustic, and you can see there a nice big chunk sort of came out there. I started it with a chisel first, with a very small sort of chisel, just by hand gouging it, and then went over it with my rustication tool, and then went over it with a wire brush. So that's really what's produced this rustication. And it's nice and hefty. It's thick walls, and yeah, it should be a really good pipe for any kind of smoking, really. But yeah, for taking out and about would be good. Good morning, Robert. How are you? So I'm thinking of cracking this potlatch. Cavendish Luxury Burley, Virginia's Latakia Perican Orientals. I didn't recall that it had Latakia in it. Pipes and Bees, North Country Fisher. Morning all. How are we? Everybody be upstanding and doff your cap to the intelligentsia that has just joined us in our room. Good evening, Hector. Yeah, so it's been a while since I smoked this, and I don't remember how heavy the Latakia is in this, and I'm just deciding whether I should smoke it in one of my Latakia pipes or not. Anybody really familiar with this? Like, smoked it a lot? PA Piper, how you doing? I think I've had it before. I just can't remember. I'm pretty sure I have had it, and I think I liked it. But I would like to know if it's really heavy in the Latakia or not. My feeling kind of tells me that it's not heavy in the Latakia, but never had it, never have. Right, well, I guess it's time to go on tobacco reviews. What is it? Seattle Potlatch. Well, it calls it a Balkan blend. Hey Mark, how you doing? Markin, Rhode Island, I guess that is. Markin RI. Black Cavendish marries with luxury burley, Cyprian Latakia, bright Virginias, Turkish, Orientals, and Acadian Perique, crafting the most sought-after small batch blends in America since 2007. Well, we'll see what Jim Inks has to say about it. He gives it 4 stars, and that's quite rare from Jim, I must be honest. He says like this: the nutty, earthy, lightly molasses sweet burley takes a small lead, with able support from the other ingredients. The floral, dry, spicy, woody, earthy, lightly sweet, and lightly more sour Turkish and Orientals are an ever-present condiment that play above that threshold due to their richness. The smoky, woody, musty, sweet Cyprian Latakia is a secondary player at best. Tangy, vinegary, ripe, dark fruit and earth from the red Virginias. Okay, I'm not going to read this whole thing and bore you all to death. And hello, Josh, how are you? Orlick, Kentucky. I think I've tried the Dark Strong Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. What's luxury burley? Well, I guess that's burley that's been in a Bentley. That's BB, Bentley Burley. Alright, well, let's crack the tin anyway. I do believe that I enjoyed it when I smoked it last. Now that's the noise you want from a tin. The last time I opened the tin, it was like a real soft opening, anticlimax really. Oh, that does smell quite good. So you definitely get the Latakia straight off, but there's also a richness, a tanginess in the aroma, and there's an earthiness to it. Bit of like a chocolatey, earthy, cocoa-y kind of aroma, and there's a richness, there's a tanginess there. There's a little bit of moisture in there, so we'll just let it sit out for a little bit. It's a ribbon cut. I think there's some little chunks of flakes as well. Not really, mainly a ribbon cut, I guess. You're going down under? Are you going to Australia, Hector? Hi, Pip Schmitz. I don't think I've met you before. Welcome. Look at it! Exactly, Art. Anything like Penzance. You're going to Australia? Wow, that's a long haul. Why on earth are you going to Australia? Brisbane, Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne and Perth. Well, I do know that the tobacco laws there are draconian, to say the least. So don't expect to find too much whilst you're there. And you'll pay a lot for it as well. Well, I gave you a fair amount there, Josh, because I didn't have a huge amount in stock, and I pretty much gave you as much as I could spare, really. Otherwise, I'd have given you more. You should have enough for a few bowls there. Snoopy1X, good evening. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your sub. So what's the story with Jack Daniels? I haven't watched his video. I did see his thumbnail saying goodbye to the YTPC and lots of people giving him good wishes. What's his story? Why is he going off? Is he setting out on some new chapter in his life? Good evening, Paul. How are you? Happy Thanksgiving to everybody indeed in the US. Happy Thanksgiving indeed. Right, I need to choose a pipe. In Peep, I think we'll have a go at the old Soren Refberg. He's got an offer of doing a TV show. He needs to keep his independent squeaky clean. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. That makes sense. Is he clearing his account or is he closing the account? Is he clearing his content? Is that in Australia that he's auditioning, or in the US? Yeah, it's 4 degrees here as well, Paul, here in London. He's making it private. Can you do that, like turn the whole account into a private thing but still keep all your content? I haven't really sort of fully gone over the YouTube studio. The only thing I did recently was to turn my account into 18 plus, turn the whole account into 18 plus viewers. Faceless videos, right? Yeah, that makes sense. But you know what? These things tend to get out eventually. Somebody would recognize his voice and that kind of stuff. Good morning, John. Good morning, Smoky Dragon. It's bloody cold here in London too. The OCD Piper, Oddjob 27. Good evening to you guys. Greetings to Southern California. Happy Thanksgivings to you over there. That terrorist attack was close, yeah. It was just in town here where I go, pretty near to where I go when I go to St. James's. Got to sleep with a sheep to keep warm. Yes, you Welsh do have interesting sleeping habits. A la Simon, absolutely, Hector, yeah. Well, imitation is the best form of flattery, they say. POW channel, yeah. Very good, Hector. Don't let him hear you say that. Well, I was actually at home when it happened. It was literally just a few minutes before the onset of Sabbath, so it was a little bit worrying not knowing anything about it and whether it's something which, sometimes these kind of terrorist attacks spread and cause things to hit the fan kind of thing. But yeah, it's nasty business. Alright, so we can get this lit. Let's get a filter in there. By the way, you guys, GQ Tobaccos has got a Black Friday thing going on. It's got quite a few Peterson pipes reduced. I've yet to buy a single item on this Black weekend. Not sure how long that will last. We shall see. Right, let's try this potlatch and see how it's going. I'm subscribed to Puro Express, so I see all their activity, but I've yet to buy from them. I buy from a different internet purveyor when I do buy, but I haven't bought much in the way of cigars recently. Hey Beowulf, how you doing? Yeah, I must admit that the whole Black Friday thing to me just smacks of another marketing frenzy, which gets people into a frenzy. There are some bargains to be had, admittedly, but I don't think it's any different to any other sale time. So usually you get a sale in the new year. There's sales in the summer holidays time, in August time, and there's sale in January, the January sales. And you'll get the same kind of sale offers. It's a marketing ploy which came from America, which I think the first time it happened, I think it was due to a downturn in business, and there were some real bargains in that first time that they did it. And from then on, people just, it's feeding people's need to find that bargain, and people spend a lot more money than they would otherwise have done. Well, Paul, anything that's going to be popular is unlikely to be marked down in a sale. They don't need to. It's usually the stuff they can't shift. We certainly are a nation of Uber consumers, and many nations in the Western world are as a result of consumerism. I don't know how old this tin is. That's my problem. I don't know if this is fresh or if it's old. I'm pretty sure I've had potlatch, and it just doesn't ring any bells the way it's smoking at the moment. Well, Beowulf, the thing is like this: if there's a product that you were about to buy, and you can get it in sale, then absolutely go for it. But I think that people will find that a lot of the time they're going to crowbar their need into a price. So that means they'll see something which, say you were going to get a phone, but the phone that you wanted is not reduced, and you'll get pushed into buying one that is reduced and not being entirely happy with it. That's the kind of what I find things like Black Friday is all about. Hey Scott Free, how you doing? Hey Snoopy, just an email, boscopiperuk@gmail.com. I'll type it up. Is all it needs. Hector, that's in an extreme case. People buying stuff, unfortunately, it's not that extreme. People just buy stuff because it's there and they think it's cheap. But I think in the best case scenario, I'm saying that if you were going to buy a phone anyway, and you get pushed into buying a different phone because of the price, sometimes it's not the best deal. Well, Gustavo, so far so good. I mean, it's not blowing me out of the water, but yeah, absolutely. You pay for it in the stress as well. Aromatics, for the most part, I don't make my own stems. I do a lot of work to the stems, but I don't actually make my own stems yet. I have made a few, but as a rule, at the moment, I'm not making them from scratch, but I am doing quite a bit of work to them, shaping them and so on, making them comfortable. The way I see it is that taking a stem from scratch, from the rod, is obviously something that I'm going to aspire to, but it does take a lot of time taking it from the rod to the basic shape. And then once you've got the basic shape, you then get down to the finer detail of shaping it. That finer detail and shaping it, I do anyway. I'm just not doing it from scratch. I bought my last pipe just a couple of days ago, and I'm going to show it to you very soon. So this blend so far, to me, it's nice enough. Yeah, absolutely, Jordan. The stems that I made did take a long time, and possibly longer than the pipe itself. So for me, it's at the moment, the way I'm making the pipes, it doesn't pay itself yet at this stage for me to make the stems from scratch. It's very time consuming. And the amount of work that I do to the stem to make it comfortable and smoke well, I'm very happy with the end product. There's lots of companies out there that don't make the stems from scratch. And as long as the pipe smokes well, there is a certain, you could say, some people say that it's not 100% an artisan pipe. That's fine if you want to say that. If you buy pipes from, say, Blake Marbriers, a big percentage of his pipes are all made from pressed stems, but he shapes them and he does all that he does to them, and that's fine. The vast majority of his pipes are made with pressed stems, as far as I know. The Morgan's Bones, they're good pipes, Joe Fish. They do have some 9mm ones, but they're really short ones. I haven't yet seen a good deal on the longer Bones pipes, and I'm not sure that you can even get them in 9mm. I haven't seen them in 9mm, but they're all the very short Scott ones, and I don't like the really short ones. They smoke a little bit too warm for me. This blend, Potlatch, I was expecting it to be a little bit better, to be honest. Even though it's got a load of different ingredients in it, for me it's actually quite, I wouldn't say one-dimensional, because it can't be one-dimensional, but the flavour is just, to me, it feels like a generic Balkan blend. Please show the new pipe! ! Oh well, in that case, well, Blakemar, he knocks his pipe out, at a price which is hard to beat. Really hard to beat. I mean, take this one here for instance. It comes from it's an acrylic stem which I've shaped and bent, and if you look at the bit here, I've spent time making that really nice and rounded and comfortable, and that will smoke very, very nicely. And I've thinned it out a little bit as well, and I do spend time on that. I'd rather spend time on making it more smokable than the basic shaping of it. And I think that as long as I'm not making the stems from scratch, my prices will reflect that. You're not going to see my prices going for $300-400. Well, North Country Fisher, it sounds like it's time to give it a good solid clean out. I do watch Moretti pipes on a regular basis, but now that I'm making pipes, any pipe that I buy has really got to stand out to me for me to consider buying it. Yeah, that makes sense, Jordan. So for those of you who haven't seen it, this is a pipe I made today. It's a kind of a cross between a pot, apple, a bit of an ants. It's got a slight cant on it, 9mm, nice thick walls, nice craggy rustication, and it's completely naked. There's no stain on it whatsoever, and there's barely a whiff of wax on it. That's always a good moment, Jordan, if you win a pipe for a good price. Sometimes you get those bargains. This one here, this Ascorti, which I absolutely adore smoking this. I got this for a great price. The Ascortis that you see nowadays, they're funny. They're like small, chubby, reverse calabashes, and you hardly ever see a more traditionally shaped pipe from Ascorti, but this is one of my best smokers. Alright, so you want to see the new pipe. Well, Tree, if anybody's got enough pipes to resist pad, you have drawers and drawers and drawers of pipes. I'm assuming you don't know how many you've got, Tree, do you? Hey Chad, how you doing? Alright, so it's a Mastro de Paya, and this, some of you may have seen this already, not my one, but you'll have seen others. This is the pipe which is commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Pipe Club of London. So they set out to order a very special pipe, and I think it is a very special pipe. It's they've made it available as 9mm and non-9mm. So here goes, people. So you can see there on the shank, PCOL, 1970 to 2020, 50th anniversary. It's got engraved there. And there's the Pipe Club of London couple of pipes there, and PCOL, and that is gold. That is actually a piece of gold for 50, which is the golden anniversary. And the rest of the band is silver. And on it is written Unico, Mastro de Paya, fatta a mano, made by hand, made in Italy. And it's been carbonized, and it's like an oval shank but with a slight sort of straight edge. This is a 9mm version, obviously, and you've got the silver sundial there, and this one's actually drilled pretty well. A lot of the bent pipes are drilled really very high. This one's a bit high, but it's perfectly acceptable. I always have a problem with these specialist pipes, whether to smoke them or not, because it's a commemorative pipe. It's got a very English bit there, very, very English bit. It's very blingy, I agree with you. I actually ordered it before I even saw the prototype, to be honest. Being a club member and being the 50th, you know, they said it would be special. I just ordered it because I would have ordered it anyway. It's just commemorative of the club that I'm a member of. But I've got 3 club pipes sitting in my drawer which I haven't smoked. Or is it 2? I think I have smoked one, which is the Meerschaum. I've got the Peterson one, which is from 2016, I think. And 2017 was also a Mastro de Paya. 2018 was the Meerschaum. 2019 I haven't smoked because I don't have it. There's been a bit of a mystery about that pipe. I took delivery of the pipe. It was made by Armellini, I think. Not Amarelli, but Armellini, or something like that. And hi Jeffrey, hi Lone Star. And to my memory, I gave it back to one of the organisers of the pipe club to re-drill it, or to adjust it, because with the filter in, it didn't fully close. And there's some discussion as to whether I took the pipe back or not, but in any event, the pipe's gone. So it may have just been left on the side there somewhere, and then somebody's had it, which was quite gutting, because they weren't available anymore. But that's life, you know. These things happen. So the 2019 pipe I don't have anymore. Do you guys want to see the 55 shape? because I'll have to go and get it. It's downstairs. You bought a nice Finnish Puukko, but you don't use it. Not sure what that is, North Country. Alright, I'll pop out quickly and get it. So that's the 55 shape, which I made towards the end of last week. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of compliments about the rustication. Really worked out well on this pipe. But you can see I really struggled with the, when I say struggled, I had to work hard and concentrate on the shaping of it because it's a really complicated shape. If you have a look at the tenon there, you can make out the tenon obviously has to be drilled straight, and it's almost popping through the stem there. Obviously I had to be very careful to leave enough thickness there, but shaping this pipe, I think this, as I mentioned when I uploaded the video of this pipe, you know, if Daniel was here and he would ask me again which was my most challenging pipe, it would have to be this one. Trying to get the official 55 shaping correct as close as possible was a big challenge. It really was. The drilling on it has worked out absolutely perfect. Really happy with it. And one of the things which I took from Mike Briar Blues' video when he was talking about this 55 shape, he said that this line here has to be parallel with that line there. Right, so when you're drilling it on the lathe, that's obviously, you've got that in mind, which I've managed here. They are along the same axes, but drawing up the lines and then lining it up on the lathe was very, very challenging, because you're actually running three, and especially with 9mm as well, you've got to do that at the right angle and then drill it at a slightly different angle. That you're running 3 or 4 different lines, and it's I found it to be quite a challenge, and I was relieved, you know, when it worked out. And this line here, getting this sweeping line, also, you know, to get that obviously without hitting that tenon, and then the same there. It's a challenging pipe to make, that's for sure. And that line really did work out beautiful. Very, very happy with that. No, I'm not keeping this pipe. This pipe sold. This pipe is sold, and it will be heading over to Singapore next week, or this coming week. Yeah, it's got some really nice grain on the rim. Quite right. If anybody's interested in this one, that one's going to be up for sale. As I say, originally I intended on making myself a pipe tonight, but it came out so well that it warrants selling, really. It's amazing. It's already, just from handling it, it's already sort of, the extremes are darkening already. This one is a completely naked pipe. Good evening, Paul. Thanks for joining. Hey George, how you doing? I'm actually quite tempted to go for a cigar, to be honest. See you, Paul, all the best. Sleep well. In terms of firmness of a cigar, you don't want it to be too firm. You want it to have a little bit of give, which will indicate that it's got some humidity to it. If it's really firm, you could end up with it being too tight to draw, or it could be because it's too dry. So you've got to be sure about why it's firm. If you've already cut the cap and it draws okay and it's still firm, then it's obviously a very full cigar. Am I doing a Black Friday sale? Well, as I've been doing in the past couple of weeks, any pipe which is bought during London Calling, during the live, I will give a discount on, because the main reason for that is that it's my regular followers, and therefore for me that's worthy of a discount. I hope so, Scott Free. I certainly hope so. This is the only naked one I've actually ever made, and I'm actually liking it. I don't know how it's gonna respond with use. It should just darken, and with the own oils of your hand it should just really colour up really nicely. Something like that, Hector, yeah. So if they've asked you if you want it firm or not, it's not about being full as in bodied, no. They're probably asking you whether you like yours a little bit dry or a little bit wet. John, it depends on the shape. Although I haven't formally sort of said that I'm going to do commissions, I've got 2 or 3 people who have asked already, and I will. The other commission that I have got, the first commission that I got was, the flame pipe that I did with the flames coming up the side of the pipe, which I sent off to Art. So somebody wanted one of those, but they're quite, labour intensive doing those pipes. So perhaps something I'll do again. We'll see. I told him that it's not something I'll do immediately. If I do it, I'll obviously let him know. You see, the thing is that I'm at the stage where I'm making pipes and I'm kind of just going with the flow. I'm kind of seeing where it takes me. Obviously I've got an idea in my mind when I started this pipe, that this pipe is actually very close in terms of shape to what I had intended. It was supposed to be just a thick, bold apple. So the shaping is not quite apple, it's more of a pot, but there is that bulbiness. So if you hold it up there, you can see that the walls are thicker than the top of the rim. So there is a certain bulbous aspect to it, but it's not quite as round and as bulbous as an apple. So it's slightly canted, which I definitely did intend, because I did that on the lathe. I tilted it a little bit. So I would say it's like a slightly canted pot. Yeah, I mean, if somebody asks me for a shape which is not completely outlandish, I'll certainly give it a crack. And there's no obligation. If somebody does an order, if I accept the order, then there's no obligation until you've seen pictures or the videos, and you've got all the details and you're happy with it. And if you're happy with it, then there you go. If you're not happy with it, that's absolutely fine. I'll either sell it to whoever wants it, or it'll stay in stock, or whatever. At the moment, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pipes now, which are available. If you guys want to see them, I'm more than happy to show them to you again. A sea urchin, yeah, absolutely, OCD. North Country Fisher, I don't use a rustication bit like Blakemore. You wouldn't get this kind of effect with that. His rustication is a very uniform pattern. Mine is done with a tool which I made. It's a hand tool, and that's why it's a lot of hard work. So the pipes that I've got at the moment is that one. There's this tall poker with a plateau top, a nice swirly grey sort of charcoaly kind of stem. Really nice grain on this pipe, very clean, a little bit of rustication on it. There's that one. There's this one here, which I still haven't smoked myself. I'm surprised that I've managed to keep away from it. A very Danish style freehand pipe. Beautiful grain on it. I might yet smoke this one. And there's this one. This is the only non-filtered pipe that I've got available at the moment. Beautiful grain on that one. Some of these I've had for quite a while now. This one I've had for quite a while. These ones are probably going to go to a website in the new year, maybe before still. That's it. Those are the pipes that I've got at the moment. There's quite a lot of pipes sitting there. Right, let me look back at some of the messages. Watch Josh's video, and the actual size of the LCS he has is very different to what I thought. Which video are you talking about there? How much is the red stem and pokey bit at the bottom? The pokey bit at the bottom, do you mean this one? That's the price if it's bought in this video. Cheap and cheerful. It's £115. So other than that, what have you guys been up to? What is there for us to talk about? I think I'm going to try this potlatch again, see what it's like. I have tried Bob's Chocolate Flake. Thanks, Pippin. Pippin. How long you got to go, John, before you go under the knife? December 12th, well, that's when our election is. When you're under, perhaps you can go to the Netherworld and give us the result. Find out who's going to win. Pipe Puffer UK, good morning. A fever-induced country squire order. You're about to lose your job scot-free. Why is that? That's not good. What is it you do for a living? You asked before about Bob's Chocolate Flake. That's really an interesting tobacco. I should really revisit it. It's been a long time since I've tried it. But when I first discovered it, I smoked it quite a lot. Really enjoyed it. It's quite a multi-level kind of smoke, that one. That's not good scot-free. It's not a chocolate tasting tobacco as such. It has got chocolate in there, but it's really a Latakia slash aromatic slash slight Lakeland. It's got a lot going on in that blend, and after a while it started to grate on me, and that's why I stopped smoking it. It was just too much. Possibly with a lot of age it might mellow out a little bit and become quite a special tobacco. It's got a lot of potential, I think. So anything potentially lined up scot-free? I assume your job's going out to China or somewhere else in the Far East. Pipe Puffer, I completely forgot about that. I haven't been saving them at all, I must be honest. Mea culpa, as they say. Congratulations, Chad. Unless you're wielding an axe, otherwise, most of the time, you talk a lot of sense. More than most. Or more than a lot, I should say. Well, I'm actually about 20 off my next milestone in subscribers, which has been creeping up quite slowly in the last sort of few hundred. But it's really, really nice to see that number still going up every so often. Let's get this pipe lit. So has anybody smoked a new tobacco recently? A new to them tobacco and really been blown away by it? I'm trying to think back to a tobacco that I'd smoked for the first time and thought, wow. Yeah, OCD, absolutely. I have the same, as you say, 2 to 4 dislikes every single video. And although you can never really know who they are, you do have an idea sometimes. Sometimes you get this kind of feeling that there's a slight animosity between you and somebody else, or a couple of people. And there's definitely a couple of people that I'm suspicious of. Good night, Dragon. Skiff mixture, I tried that once, very early on. I didn't like it, but it was way before I'd really gotten into tobaccos well enough. Peter Stokkeby Luxury Twist. That's not a bad, to me anyway, it's not bad. I do find that it loses that flavour after a while. Sunset Harbour Flake, I've heard a lot of people talk about that and I've not yet tried that. Key Largo, I've also heard a lot about that one, but I haven't tried it. RB Plug. I've only tasted that once, I think. I may even have a little sort of cube of it somewhere. I should really try it again. S&G, is that Samuel Gawith? HU Port Latakia. Well, for me, I would say that it crept up on me a little bit, but I would say that the one which has really hit me the most recently, Hey Daniel, has been this HU Dock Worker. It's a really interesting blend. There's a lot of stuff in it, but it works. It's got a really nice richness to it. Good evening, Bona. Good evening, Pip Schmitz. There's a joke in there somewhere. Well, I tried to get onto one of the German sites to get some more of this stuff, and I couldn't find it. I think that Hector, when he sent me that HU tobacco, he got his from Estival's, but I went onto their website. They didn't have the dock worker at the time. These pipes are all LCS pipes, yes, Daniel. And the one I made today is this naked rusticated pot. A heavy rustication, slightly canted, smooth rim, but no staining. 9mm. Yeah, I mean, when I first joined the Pipe Club of London, actually, I sat next to a bloke. It's going back probably 3 years ago, maybe longer. And he told me to try HU tobaccos at the time, and I didn't. But he gave me a pinch of whatever it was he was smoking at the time, but I never followed it up. You'll kick in $20 if someone buys a LCS pipe. Artie. I was reading about Dan Pipe actually. Yeah, I agree, Hector. They're quite a diverse range of tobaccos. They really have some interesting names as well, their tobaccos. Well, Daniel, to be honest, when I'm on the go, nothing beats the Zippo. This particular lighter is a Peterson. It's probably my either second or third or even fourth of these, because they just don't last that long. So this one, when they replaced it, I've kept it, not taken it out of my office. It just stays there and I use it on my desk. In actual fact, it stayed in my drawer for about a year before I even unpacked it. But I opened it up a few weeks ago, and it now stays on my desk, and I just use it on when I'm at my desk, and so hopefully it'll last. But it's actually very, very nice lighter, and when it works, it's got a nice soft flame, and you can't beat a flint lighter. At the end of the day, when you got electronics, they always go wrong. So a flint lighter is the best. I'm not sure where oh, here it is. So this is my EDC, I guess you'd say, lighter. It's in my pocket every day. It needs a bit of fuel in it, but that's my solid brass Zippo, and works great. I think I actually bought this one second hand on eBay, if I'm not mistaken, very early on. And in the beginning, after I tried it, I didn't like it because I didn't like the taste of the fuel. But when I came back to it and got used to it, it's I use it more than anything else. See you, Jordan. Where's my tamper? There it is. Peterson pipes. I haven't got I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Peterson pipes. I like the way some of them look, but maybe it's just me, but the ones that I've had have all been badly drilled. The internals of every single one that I've had has been very poor. Thanks, OCD. I can't see any link. Well, Beer Wolf, I'll tell you the truth. I only had one P-lip. I didn't like it at the time, and I haven't revisited it. So who knows? Maybe now I would. In the beginning, I was totally inexperienced. Well, in terms of smoking quality, I can't comment on any of these because I haven't smoked them. They're all unsmoked. But in terms of the ones that I do smoke, so there's this one here, which is the Rhodesian, which has had the most smoke time out of my pipes. And then next would be this one, which I made quite recently. It's a nice apple. And I've smoked it quite a bit already. And I think this one will get a lot of smoke time. And I think what I'm going to do, and what I'm planning on doing over the next sort of near to medium future, is to basically create a rotation of my own pipes, and I'm probably slowly going to start disposing of my other pipes. I'll keep a few, the ones which are very sort of meaningful to me, but the rest I'm going to start disposing of them. So you'll soon see some really nice pipes going up for sale. Some of my Stanwells, the pipe of the year Stanwells and things like that. Because I just love how my pipes smoke, and I'd much rather smoke my own pipes. This one here, well, if it's bought during the session tonight, it's £125. And that will go forever, that pipe. Beautiful thick walls. And it will colour up really nicely. Perfectly drilled. That'll be a good smoker to whoever buys that. In USA money, that will be that's $161 plus shipping. So in total, you're looking at $177, including shipping. So call it $175, including shipping. Oh, awesome, Josh. Really happy. Glad to hear it. I'm no problem, PA. Just let me know if you're interested. No worries if you're not. I was reading the book today by Rick Newcomb, and he goes on and on and on about his the draft hole being wide open, and when he buys pipes, even the most expensive pipes by people like he's bought pipes by Bo Nord, Lars Iversen, yes, Chonovitz, and these kind of people, he would still re-drill those pipes, even those pipes. And since I started kind of committed to 9mm, I've done mine always a little bit wider in order to compensate for what some people perceive as being a constriction because of the 9mm filters. And I think that makes my pipes smoke really, really well. I know I'm biased, obviously, but I'm basing it on my own experience with my other pipes. And my pipes really smoke well. It's as simple as that. As I say, I'm biased, but I really like the way my pipes smoke. Josh, you did a video today? I haven't watched that. Yeah, so it basically what he talks about in the book is that he had when he that book is basically a collection of articles he's written in various publications over the years. You're talking about 20 years ago, maybe even longer, and he had a lot of toing and froing with some of the upper echelons of the pipe smoking world, the pipe collectors, and they actually said that it's sacrilegious to re-drill a Bow North. I mean, that's just who would dare do such a thing, but he did. Hey, Grimble. I'm terrible, Hector. Absolutely terrible. Well, in my defense, I was making this pipe this evening, spent a bit of time with my family, and then once they went to bed, I went out to the garage, knocked this one out, and then came in, and then it was time to go live, so didn't really have the time. Good evening, Davy. A very cold Scotland, a very cold England too. I imagine it's even colder in Scotland. I don't know how you survive it. You must have it bad every year. You're like our Canadian brothers. Like the Canadians are to the Americans, the Scottish are to the English. What I really want to do is actually get a set of hand drills like Art's been doing. I've looked on Amazon and stuff like that, but I've not been able to find one that I'm happy with the look of. Well, Daniel, how long is a piece of string? Every pipe is different. There can be some pipes that I'll spend a couple of afternoons on, and there'll be some pipes that I can knock out in a few hours. Every pipe's different. Hey, Chris. -2. Well, that's a lot colder than we've got. At the moment, we're 4 degrees. -9. I don't know how you Canadians do it. Honestly, I don't. You guys seem to get the snow the earliest in the world, and it leaves the last. Your summer seems to start later than everybody else. You guys seem to get hammered every year. And it's funny how the YTPC makes the world a smaller place, because this is stuff I would never have noticed beforehand. -9. Oh my gosh, Daniel, I don't know how you cope. And I guess you got no need for a fridge, just leave your stuff outside. Well, it'd probably freeze then, wouldn't it? Well, just looking at the weather app, and it's got both on London, one saying 3 degrees and one saying 4 degrees. Go figure. Well, coming towards the end of this bowl of potlatch, it's nice enough, but it's not something I'm going to run out and buy. Wow, I don't know how you cope with that, boner. Honestly, I don't. I mean, it's got to be just too cold to go out. Forget about Black Friday. You're not going to go out shopping in that, are you? Minus 35 degrees. RMS Titanic. Really? At minus 25, minus 30 degrees, people are out and about. I guess it's whatever you're used to, you know. And at the other extreme, in the Middle East, people are walking around in 40 degrees, you know. It's, you know, boiling temperature. Hey, Boris. You prefer minus 30 to plus 40? I think most people would. Although, both are pretty dangerous. Tornado risk in Leeds. Anything goes these days, you never know. Alright, well, anybody got any particular questions or any topics that they want to discuss? Otherwise, I will call it a night. Prince Andrew? Yeah, I think so. I think he's done. I think he's shot himself in the foot, and I think people probably just see him now as a burden, really. He's not... See, the thing is with the royal family is that you just don't know what they're doing in the background. Some of them are doing nothing and are actually a burden, and some of them are doing a lot of charitable work. So, you know, not all of it is publicised. I don't know what Prince Andrew does. I'm sure he's patron to various different charities and so on, but whether he actually gets off his backside and does actual work, I really don't know. But he certainly seems to have shot himself in the foot over this whole Epstein debacle. Didn't do himself any favours with the interview, and that's that. To be honest, I was thinking about it on Friday, and I feel really bad for the Queen. You know, the Queen, as far as anybody knows, is, you know, she's a really, really upstanding monarch. Never had any sleaze, no scandals, nothing ever been said, nothing bad ever been said about the Queen. And you go to the next generation, Charles, and you know, he was obviously two-timing his wife pretty much from day one, and you just think, what have you got to look up to in somebody like that? If he's going to be king, what kind of example is he setting? He is setting that philandering aside. He's, he certainly comes across as a gentleman and all of that kind of thing, very, very polished and all of that. But when you've had somebody like the Queen for so long, you're spoilt. You want somebody who's of caliber, that kind of caliber, and you kind of have hope in Prince. I keep forgetting his name. Not Harry, the other one. Anyway, the next in line and throne after Charles, and a lot of people have said they wish it would skip a generation, and I think that would be a good thing. It won't happen, but it would be a good thing if it did happen. Prince William, yeah. I don't know why it keeps slipping out of my mind, his name. I was trying to think about it on one of the videos I did when we were talking about Andrew, and it kept slipping. I had to actually look on my phone and do a search and say, heirs to the throne. Yeah, he did serve, yeah. Mountain State. This is the pipe that I did today. That was my last pipe at the moment, the one that I did today. I've got nothing else on the bench at the moment. My stock of briar is dwindling. I actually need to get some more in. I've got an order on the way from Italy, or from Germany, but it's Italian briar. So I should get that in the next couple of days, a few more blocks. But I must say, briar that is expensive. You can buy cheap briar for $5, $6, but it's rubbish, and it's always full of pits and cracks. The stuff that I use, generally speaking, is pretty good quality, and I've had good fortune in terms of bad briar. But you got to pay for it. What is the pipe on the far right top on your pipe rack with a wide bowl? It has a cut ring all around the rim. You talking about this pipe here? Daniel, is this the one you mean? If this is the one further over. With a wide bowl and a cut ring all around the rim. I don't know if you mean this one. This is the only one which has got a cut ring. This is a Northern Briars Quebec shape, he calls it. Hector. This is an excellent pipe. I've had any briar that I couldn't use. Well, there's been a couple of blocks which I've started cutting and then come across. I had one particular block which I think is still in my bin, in my oddments bin, which when I started cutting the shank, a massive, great big sort of hole in the middle of it, which looked like it had some kind of bug or slug or something in there that was still in there. It was obviously dried out and petrified, but that pretty much paid to that block. Maybe I could sort of chop that off and make a stubby pipe, I don't know, but it's sitting in my bin. I think I've also had a pipe where it's been cracked, which has gone right through the bowl, and that I either dumped it or I can't remember what I did with it. Maybe I used it myself, I don't remember. But for the most part, you can usually save the pipe. You can either rusticate it or you can sand around it and try and avoid it. And sometimes you end up with interesting shapes as a result. But I have to say, in the last sort of probably 30 or so pipes, I haven't had issues, really, any very serious issues with the briar. This Stanwell will probably be one of the ones that I'll go for the chop when I do my sale, my next pipe sale. This is a 2001 pipe made in Denmark. Danish Stanwells tend to be the best, as opposed to the Italian ones, which is where they're made now. I don't know, Hector. It looks really complicating to me, but it's 9mm. It is 9mm. It's not to say that I wouldn't rise to the challenge, but I'm still I consider myself still to be at a very early stage of basic pipe making. So I'm just really continuing what I'm doing and just honing my skills. You know, I've still got a huge amount to learn when it comes to shaping and getting the balance of pipes right. You know, maybe doing more work on stems, that kind of thing, before I get more adventurous when it comes to drilling. Because that, I think, the freehand drilling, I think, just needs a lot of experience. And I'm not there. I'm not at that stage yet, I don't think. You've got to bear in mind as well that pipe making for me at this stage is it kind of not what I do. I have other profession that I do for a living, so this is kind of still very, very part-time, even though I'm probably giving it more time than I should, but it's still something which I'm doing part-time. Best cigar under a tenner, UK prices. Well, we don't get a huge selection of non-Cubans here, but even those are quite expensive. But if I had to really be pushed, I would say if you're going for a Cuban, it's a small cigar for under a tenner, but I'd push you towards the H. Upmann Half Corona. I think that's a 44 ring gauge, and it's about 3.5 inches, but it's a very flavorful smoke. But that's just me. You know, there's other cigars of the same size, which most of the marks do. So you've got the Medio Corona, you've got the small Siglos, the Siglo 1 for instance, from Cohiba, the Monte Cristo Medio Corona. You know, that's a good cigar as well. Partagas do one, I forget which number it is, but there is a small, a D6 maybe, I'm not sure, D5 or D6. But I'm not sure what the prices are, but the Half Corona I think you can get it under a tenner, just about. Might be a 10 or 11 quid maybe. You know, I'm the idea was, when I first started making the pipes, the idea was really as part of my hobby. It was an extension of the hobby. You guys know that I've been very passionate about pipes from when I started, and it was really just a continuation of that journey, of that enjoyment of the hobby. And when I started sort of shaping kit pipes, that's really when it took off. And then I eventually, after a lot of sort of humming and hawing, I pulled the trigger on a lathe, and that's really when it kicked off. It took me time to get that going because I didn't have the right chuck for it, the jaws. But once I got the jaws and I got the hang of it, and I had that live video with what's his name, Sea Smokes, and the guy in I think he's in Canada as well, and he kind of coached me through that first pipe, and I was off. After that I was up and running. And I would say that if I can develop my pipe making to a point where I can perhaps, when I come to retire, please God, I'll have something to do. I'll have something that I can bring in a little bit of an income, possibly. And that was the original plan. So I invested very carefully in the machinery that I've bought. I haven't spent a fortune. I've really just bought, I think, 3 or 4 bits of machinery. I bought the lathe. I bought a drill press, which I virtually don't use, but I bought a cheap one, so that's fine. I bought a bandsaw, which has been invaluable. I bought also a relatively cheap one. I think it was £200. And I bought a multi-sander, which I don't use very much either. It's got a wheel and a belt sander on it. Bit of a waste of money that was, but I do use it occasionally. And I bought a bench grinder for sharpening my tools, and that's it. That's what I've really invested in, and the rest is all material. Briar, stems, sandpaper. Sandpaper is a flipping fortune to get decent sandpaper, and you go through it like nobody's business. The Briar Blues Pipe of the Year, Daniel, I haven't smoked it yet. That was actually the muse for my Shape 55 pipe. So this is the Shape 55. This is the Shape 55 Pipe of the Year from Briar Blues. And this one is mine, slightly longer stem. And there you go. My one's a bit chunkier. But I haven't smoked it yet. How many pipes that you made have I sold? Well, I'm up to pipe number 67 or 8, this one is. And these are the ones that I have left. So there's about 10 pipes here. And the vast majority of the rest have sold. So I've probably sold, I would say I've probably sold somewhere between 35 and 40 pipes. Which, considering how long I've been making pipes for, that's pretty good. Yeah, those first attempt pipes were laughable, really. There were quite a few other pipes in between, which I hardly smoke. So that's when I say, although I've made 67, probably about 10 of them lying around, which I don't smoke. There was this one, if you guys remember it, which actually smokes perfectly well. It's just that when I drilled it, the mortise for the 9mm goes virtually straight into the bowl, so there's no sort of draft beyond the mortise, so the filter hits the bowl, but it smokes absolutely fine. It's an interesting looking pipe. It's got some nice grain. And then there's this pipe here, which I smoked quite a bit when I first made it. I haven't smoked it in a while. I do like the shape on that one. And there's this one, which I made, if you remember, using this stem. This is one of the stems that I had made myself. But the walls, because of this here, this crack, I kept on sanding and sanding and sanding, and I ended up with a very, very thin walled pipe. Truth is, I could smoke it, I could really break it in very carefully and it would be fine. But this is also really very, very thin. So what happened is that this here, you can see that little divot there. So that's a bit of an issue, but the grain on this pipe is phenomenal. And there's this one, which I haven't smoked yet. This is actually, well, I wouldn't have, it's not a filter pipe. But this is this tenon I cut myself. It's alright, it's a little bit loose, but it's okay, it'll smoke fine. What I really need to do with this one is resand it and stain it or possibly rusticate it, and it'll actually be quite a nice pipe. Maybe put in a different stem, maybe drill it for 9mm. Yeah, a sandblasting cabinet is definitely on the horizon. It's definitely on my shortlist. It's also not a really big investment. I think for a couple of £100 I could have the cabinet, a bit of media and a gun. Yeah. I really need to get some advice about that, is who to which ones to get, because I don't want to invest in it and then find that I really want to get something a bit better. I haven't made a cutty style pipe, I don't think, as yet. Thanks, Joe Fish. Yeah, listen, I'm not in it to make £1 million. I'm in it to enjoy it. It's part of it's an extension of my hobby, of my pipe smoking hobby. So therefore, for me, if I show my mistakes as well, it doesn't bother me. I'm not here to prove anything to anybody. If people buy my pipes, all well and good. If they don't, that's fine as well. I'm not relying on it for an income, or I'll just end up with a nice collection of pipes, which eventually I'll just smoke myself. But thankfully, it's going very well. A lot of the pipes are selling, and my progression is really going well. And if I make a few mistakes here and there, that's all part of the learning process. I could ask JT Cook about sandblasting, but I've emailed him more than once, not on that particular question, but there's no response. I have made a few tampers, Daniel. I made quite a lot of tampers in the beginning when I was sort of getting used to my lathe. Hi Cal Delta, how are you doing? I wouldn't say you've got to the start of one of these live streams. We've been on for an hour and 3/4 already. Thanks for joining anyway. Welcome. What was I saying? Lost my train of thought. What was I saying, anyone? Alright, thank you, Josh. So I did make tampers in the beginning, but I'll be honest with you, it takes time to make tampers as well. And I'd much rather be spending the time making pipes. That's the truth. That's the honest truth. And even setting aside the value of it, just the time. My time is precious to me. And if I'm going to be in the garage, I want to make pipes. I love making pipes. I can knock out a tamper, it's true. But even from a financial aspect, it doesn't make sense either. Even if although I'm not making them because of the financial side of it, but even that doesn't make sense. You can't sell a tamper for more than about £10, if that. and I'm not particularly advanced in terms of using different materials and putting metal caps on and all that kind of stuff. So my tampers are fairly straightforward. I have made some nice tampers. I've sent a few out to people, but it's just it's just too time consuming to be worthwhile. It's not worth my while. I actually don't know if I've even got any. I think I've sent them all out. This is a little one which I just made a while back. It's a tiny small one with a nice interesting bit of wood. But yeah, I'll send you whichever pipe you want, Steve. You just have to pay for it. You can have as many as you want. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Daniel. Yes, Tree. I almost did that with the. I think it was actually possibly this pipe or this one. I'm not sure which one it was. One of them. There was when I cut the block, there was a really sort of big chunk there. I think I kept the piece, so that might be something I'll do in the future. If using bigger blocks, the blocks that I use, I tend to really utilize the whole of the block with very small cut-offs. So I don't really have cut-offs big enough to make tampers. The tampers that I have made have been from pen blanks. The tampers that I've made have been from this kind of size blanks, which I've bought specifically to make tampers. And I've probably got about 20 blanks or so sitting in my garage, which I just haven't had the interest in doing them, to be honest. Good night, Tim. Thanks for joining. Yeah, Quaker, I've got to tell you, the tool that I use the most, if I could find it on my desk, is a classic traditional pipe tool. When I'm on the go, the pipe nail. Obviously, the pipe nail is probably the most useful tool you can buy. But this is a tool which I got in the Israti sale. I probably paid £1 for it, if that. This is an original Roberts tool made in Sheffield, and I actually, whenever I'm emptying my pipe, I don't use the scoop. I just put that in there and I swirl it around, knock it on the knocker, and that's it. Stays like this, open all the time. And I don't use. I've got some beautiful tampers. You can see I've got a container there full of tampers. They just don't get used. Every so often I'll take one out, just to use it. But generally speaking, they don't get used very much. OCD, yeah, I have tried mortar. I've got one pipe which I started making. Looks a bit like a spaceship. I started making it quite a long time ago and I've never finished it. But I did make one mortar pipe which came out really nice, and I gifted that to Andrew Sirigliano. But it's not a medium which I would want to really spend too much time with. It's a bit of a bugger to drill. It's hard work carving it, shaping it. I don't know, never say never, I might, if somebody had a specific order, but I don't know the material well enough to really get the best out of it at this stage. I'm still learning about briar, It's an interesting type of wood because it's quite sinuous. So when you're drilling, sometimes it can rip chunks off of the briar. So you have to make sure that you're drilling it at quite a speed. And the same applies when you're sanding it. You go through quite a bit of sandpaper on the sanding wheel. I've not really done a huge amount of research on meerschaum pipes. I have watched a few videos, but I think it's a very different kettle of fish. I think some of the carvers do create a basic shape on a lathe, but it's pretty much the carving's all done by hand, because they carve it when it's wet and it's quite soft, and you can shape it with a knife. I doubt I'll ever really get into meerschaum pipes and making meerschaum pipes. As I say never, but it's not on the horizon at all. In terms of Christmas edition pipes, as I said last time, if I did do any kind of edition, it would be a Hanukkah edition, not a Christmas edition. But if you're doing a Christmas edition, you've got to release, probably a few thousand or a few hundred at least, and I'm very unlikely to do that. Hey, Mark Claude. But you never know. I never say never. You don't know what the future holds. Maybe there'll be a time when I'll do maybe half a dozen in a series. It's certainly something which I could consider. I've often thought about lining up half a dozen blocks of briar, and rather than taking one pipe from beginning to end, do it in stages. So cut all of the 6 pipes in the same shape. Well, the briar won't always let you do the same shape, but to make a series of pipes in one go, I've often thought about doing that, and it's something which I can see myself doing. The only downside to that is that you end up with 6 pipes and possibly not selling 6 pipes, but the amount of time it would take to do them would probably take the same amount of time as it would if I was making single pipes. So if say I produce a pipe a day, so I'll still at the end of 6 days have 6 pipes, but it'll just be at the end in one go rather than each day, I guess. I suppose it's much of a muchness, really. So I guess I'm going to record a video of this pipe and get it out there in case anybody's interested. And maybe I'll end up keeping it myself. That was the original plan today. The original plan this evening was to make this pipe for myself, and I might just keep this one. We'll see. Let's see how much it weighs. I think it will be quite hefty, but it's still a good clencher because of the centre of gravity on it. I think it will be somewhere between 60 and 70 grams, I reckon. $62 grams. So, yeah. Maybe I will keep this one. We shall see. Well, in terms of working on thanks, Josh. In terms of working on the stems, the colour is not going to have an effect on the working on it. In terms of the result, it really depends on the pipe. So some pipes, the yellow will work better depending on the stain of the block. So this one, I think it works well with. It really depends, This one, for instance, I think this one works well because of the contrast, because this one is unstained, and I think what will happen is this will darken over time and it will blend in really nicely. There's always the classic, the black. This is actually an ebonite stem, one of the original type of stems, and classic is classic. You can't beat a classic pipe. Good night, OCD. Thanks very much. I think we're going to call it a night anyway. As always, enjoyed talking to everybody. Thank you very much for joining. And let's just do the thank yous. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, OCD. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Bona. Thank you, John. Thank you, Monclaude. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Hector. Thank you, Beowulf. Thank you, Tree. Thank you, Joe Fish. Cal Delta, PA Piper, OCD Piper, North Country Fisher, Tim, who's gone, Mountain State Piper, and everybody else. Thank you for joining. I look forward to seeing you very soon. I might just do, just thinking about it, maybe as we get nearer to the festive season, I might do a festive giveaway, we shall see. Maybe one of these pipes, we'll see. I've got a bunch of pipes to send out. I sent out a batch at the end of last week, and I've got another batch to send out now from last week's winnings. I haven't sent them off yet, so that will go out in the next few days, hopefully. I didn't manage to get to the post office on Friday, so hopefully, yeah, in the next couple of days. So once those are all out, then perhaps we'll look at doing a festive giveaway. Maybe to celebrate the 4,000 subscribers, nearly there. North Country Fisher, no, don't celebrate it at all. Celebrate it in as much as I might go to town with my kids to see the lights. That's about it. We don't celebrate it at all, no. Although, a couple of years ago we went away for a week in the Christmas holidays, and the house that we went to had a Christmas tree. So, yeah, we had one year. Thank you, Mountain State. There it is. But it has sold now, so that's going to be off to its new owner in the next few days. I would really like to make another one because I had a lot of interest in that pipe, but it's quite a tough pipe to make, and it's perfectly possible that I'll mess it up. Hanukkah bush. Yeah, that would be fun. Anyway, good night, everybody. Good morning. It's 2 o'clock in the morning here, so time for me to call it a day, a night, a morning. Catch you all on the next one. No problem, Josh. Pleasure. It's a pleasure, Daniel. Thank you for joining once again. Much appreciated. You're a very important part of the live streams. Nighty night. Toodle pips.